Good afternoon, my name is Melissa Rivera, and today I will be presenting the causes of youth violence and what we as a society can do to prevent it. Some facts about youth violence. The definition for youth violence, or some of the behaviors, they start early and they continue into adulthood. Nationally, youth violence is the third leading cause of death for youth aged 15 to 24. Youth incarceration increases about 3.4% per year. And homicide is the second leading cause of death for young people ages 15 to 24 years old. Certain types of youth violence include bullying, dating violence, domestic violence, child abuse, gun violence, and gang violence. Causes of youth violence include, these are pulled from some articles that I've read over the last few days, the last few weeks, and they are some of my conclusions, and they come from psychologists, they come from studies and researches. Exposure to violent content in video games, television, and media. The way that our children are watching TV and the things that they're seeing are graphic, and they display violent behaviors. Lack of investment in our youth and communities. Negligent, non-involved, or disengaged parents and families. So I'm just going to go a little bit into detail of some of the causes. So exposure to violent content in video games and television and media, different ways that we can prevent that from becoming a major cause of youth violence is we can communicate with our children and discuss the difference between fantasy and reality. At a young age, it's hard for children to understand what is fake and what is real. At 3-4 years old, playing Black Ops 3 or other video games that are not age appropriate, they can develop their own sense of reality from the video game. The things that we're seeing on television, media, and in the news, we're overexposing our children to violence, war. So at a young age, again, they're seeing those types of contents. There are parental controls on electronic devices such as iPads, tablets, as well as cell phones. Cell phone companies, you can log right onto their websites and you're able to block specific content and internet usage, as well as cable companies. You can set these types of controls up with passwords, and your children will not be able to utilize that content unless they have the password for approval. So for the lack of investment in our youth and communities, we tend to not invest in our communities as much. There's some facts on funding and budgeting for prisons, and we could take that money to create jobs and invest in our schools. In one article, it was said anywhere between $20,000 to $30,000 per year is invested into our prison per prisoner. So if we took that money per prisoner, we could create jobs. We could create different programs within our school, after school community programs, before school programs. That way our children are monitored more often and they're involved in something instead of using those 3 to 4 hours a day without parental vision or parental supervision to do whatever it is they want. Instead of imprisoning youth, we can give them opportunity with grants. I learned quite a few things about programs within the community for young men as well as fathers. In the early 20th century, we had different types of programs that would, community initiative, building, jobs, education, and even homeowner programs for youth. Negligent, non-involved, or disengaged parents. So we, as a community, many parents who aren't involved or engaged in their children, they have some type of sickness, would call like maybe a mental health disorder, a substance abuse issue. So if we could identify those issues at a young age, we could stop the cycle and parents could be healthier to be more involved in their children's lives. We could create support within our community for families. I know many young single mothers or many young adults have a hard time finding daycare, so therefore it's hard for them to keep their job, it's hard for them to maintain their normal day-to-day. And then make family a solid foundation, develop healthy relationships from an early age. Parents and family are major factors in children's life. From the day that they're born, they look at their parent and their family for that bond, that support, and that nurturing. So if we're more involved in our children and we're more involved in the things that they're doing, that lessens the chance of them to be on their own making bad decisions. So my conclusion of this presentation is crime rates for youth are on the rise. Children are being labeled as delinquent, and we as a society continue to focus on efforts on punishment rather than prevention. It just takes me back to where incarceration is where we're sending our youth, and we're spending more money per child or per inmate than we are on school funding. So if we took 10 people, 20,000, that's $200,000 1 year that we could invest back into our youth. The lack of prevention shows that youth violence will continue to rise until, as we as society make the changes to address the issues before they happen.